G-Town was the best, wasn't it? It was the best. So many experiences, so many lessons learned, and so many lifetime friends kept. And marriages, Ellen Marco and Steve Matzner, Betsy Moody and Marty Drop, Louise Polis, Martha Stoken, Kathy Spear and George Schuler, Eileen Goldsmith and John Superman Bancroft. That's an inside joke. Did I miss anyone? Anybody did I miss? Who's that? There we go, Lavelle Johnson and Karen Johnson. That's pretty cool. And for those of you that don't know, Ellen and I we had, that's the key word, been married for 67 years. 47 for me and 20 for her. Actually, shortly after the 70th birthday party and a lot of begging on my part, Ellen volunteered to save my life, and we've been together ever since. So here's the deal. Take a slow look around the room. You never know who might be checking you out. Putting together a reunion is a daunting task. I watched Ellen do it and tried to help without being annoying. I'm not sure if I was annoying because I was afraid to ask. When I told Ellen that I wanted to introduce her, she was, no way, don't introduce me, don't make a big deal over me. And that was her instructions. Well, I wasn't very good at following instructions, which was, I wasn't a great student at G-Town because of that. Well, I'm gonna duck, and here goes. Well, Ellen, and I did have some other people urging me on to this, so I'm not alone now. While Ellen was complaining, she kept working at it. I was trying to help by contacting classmates all over the country, and that was really a lot of fun. It really was. There was a phrase that I kept hearing over and over again. Ellen is the best class president ever. With that echoing in my ears, it's necessary and appropriate for me, on behalf of the class of 1964, to present you, Ellen, with this plaque that says exactly the same thing. Ellen Landow, the best class president ever.
I swear he was not supposed to do that. I fought a lot about it, but thank you very much. Greetings. Welcome to all of you. It's so great that you keep coming. I want to welcome Al Jacobs. Too close, too far. And his wife Evie, and Claire Hirshfield, special, our teachers, two of our wonderful teachers, undoubtedly impacted our lives. I know exactly how an isosceles triangle guided me through child rearing. And I'm still correcting a very dear friend with his grammar. Ooh. The most asked question of our class, which no one has found the answer as yet, where is Barry Mitchell? Does anybody know? He has eluded us all these years. His name is on classmates.com, but apparently he's not getting any, maybe he changed his email. So if anyone knows, please tell me. I don't know about you, but for me, the number 73 is beyond my realm of comprehension. It isn't that I'm not pleased to be alive and kicking, but where did the years go? We've lived a whole lifetime. You know, the dash that we see between the date of birth and our final days. We've lived that dash. At first, I really didn't want to undertake the responsibility of putting together another reunion. But in all honesty, we loved seeing one another. Friendships were rekindled. Others kept abreast of one another's activities and photos that we've shared on our class Facebook page. It's nice, really nice. When I sent out a survey months ago about whether we should wait until we turn 75 or do it at our 55th, I received a passionate request from one of our classmates, who shall go unnamed, who had been dealing with some health issues. I realized that we couldn't wait. We couldn't wait because we needed to get together again soon. Life has become way too fragile. I will tell you, the most difficult part of putting this together, this particular one, was receiving the notes and the phone calls from spouses or children and return mail about classmates who have passed away. You all have a list. I had a list on the table. So before we begin our joyful reunion, let's just take a moment to remember our old friends and teachers too. We recently lost Loretta Sioko, Irene Jameson, Phyllis Swain, again, and these are only those I know about. They're no longer with us to celebrate. You've got the list, which I've been compiling, and these are the ones that I know about. I'm sure there are others. Can we just have a moment of silence? I'd like to thank John Butler, Addie's son, who at the last minute, Addie can't be with us today. She injured her back, who is DJing for us today. Ellen Markel, Master, Phyllis Moskowitz-Lightman, and Michael Pollock for helping me to make this happen. Now I'd like to ask, actually, Addie's not going to be here, so she's not going to be here to say a few words, but I'd like to invite Jeff Smith, who is the vice president of our class, to say a few words, and then our teachers, and then we have a special treat at the end. Jeff,
Could you just point that at me?
you're coming up.
Don't do anything, just point it at me. Thank you.
Beautiful speech.
Well, I don't have any prepared remarks. I remembered that I was supposed to give remarks this morning. And also, Ellen told me to keep it brief to begin with. I still live in Germantown, and I am blessed to have all four of my children in Germantown, so that if I'm lonely, I can walk half a mile to be with my son. If I'm a little braver, I can walk another mile and a half to get to my other daughter, and it's just beautiful. So I'm still Germantown through and through. I have moved from Germantown. I lived on Wayne Avenue and Rittenhouse Street for 30 years. Not Rittenhouse, Germantown, Wayne Avenue and Haynes Street for 30 years. And then I moved to Walnut Lane and Wissahickon Avenue, a little community called Bluebell Hill. So I'm still in Germantown. And what I wanted to bring to you, what really, yeah?
What is on the site of the old Germantown High School?
Well, I was going to mention that's the main reason that Ellen told me to make the comments brief. Because Germantown, the most sorrowful thing for me is when people say, Germantown, that really used to be nice. It sucks now. Well, the commercial district for 30 years did suck, and it's still in serious recovery. There's a lot of reasons for it, but since 2009, 2010, an organization, a community development corporation called Germantown United, has been very successful in generating new business. There's an art museum, an art gallery now on Germantown Avenue. There are 3 or 4 coffee shops that have just opened in the last couple of years, including one called Uncle Bobby's, which is on Market Square, that is famous around the city. The owner is a Temple University professor, and they do all kinds of literary events and stuff. So Germantown, as a commercial and cultural community, there's a very active music recording studio called Rittenhouse Soundworks, which has a musicians gathering every fourth Sunday of the month. So it's really a vibrant community. So if somebody tells you that Germantown sucks, it doesn't. It is. So Germantown High School closed in 2013. If you're interested, you can see Dr. Schuler speaking about Germantown and the last graduating class. which is on the Germantown High School Facebook page. A couple of years ago, the school district, actually in 2013, the school district put the whole complex of Fulton and Germantown High School up for sale. It took a long time, went through some permutations of owners. The most recent developer plans to do 220 residential units in the complex, along with the community, making the theater a community resource, making the old gym a community recreational resource. There is a lot of discussion with the community to try to make sure that all kinds of people can afford to live there, that it's not going to be, you know, a high-level condo type situation. You know, I am very conflicted because, you know, I want to see affordable housing. I also know, like most people do, that the only way the community is going to improve is if the general income of the people who can live there raises a bit. Gentrifying is the word of the day in Germantown. The Wayne Junction area is now a historic district. There is a developer who's been going crazy in developing it. It's the center of focus now. So anyway, that's Germantown. And the Germantown High School situation is going to take probably another year before negotiations with the developer and the 30 community organizations that are involved comes to be. But there's a Facebook group, if you're interested. It's called Germantown High Fulton group, Facebook group. You'll learn of that. Anyway, Germantown is still a place to come visit. The historical sites are thriving, and that's basically it. It's any questions, but that was what I wanted to talk about, and I'm sure that's enough.
Trolleys and cobblestones?
Oh boy. Briefly, yes, the tracks are still there, the catenary wires are still there. They took the trolleys off the line about year 2000, or in the late 1990s, with no particular plan to put them back on there. But yeah, cobblestones for sure. And the biggest thing is protecting the facades and the historical buildings that are there. The avenue itself is a historic site. It's a national designated historical site. The late 1990s, 4 presidents came. There was a day when there was that event in Philadelphia where, you know, the presidents came to promote employment and et cetera, and development all up and down, and volunteer actions all up and down the avenue took place. So Germantown Avenue itself is still thriving.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
So Claire Hirshfield.
Thank you for inviting me to share your 55th class reunion. I attended your 50th as well, and happily recall the pleasures of that evening, most especially meeting the grown-up versions of the teenagers who still lived in my memory. Recently, I had another encounter with those memories. Because Lincoln Drive was being repaved, I found myself driving to meet a friend along the length of Germantown Avenue, from Chelton to Newton Street in Chestnut Hill. It had been decades since I last ventured into the area, and I was unprepared for many of the changes, especially the massive shuttered site of our old home, Germantown High School. It sits silent, dark, forlorn, abandoned, awaiting its fate as prisoners once awaited the guillotine. But for me, it evoked many happy memories of a bygone age, never to return. I half expected to see Henry Wagner bounding out of the closed doors, Dr. Choate ambling along Haynes Street, or Mr. Schlick laughing uproariously at some bit of drollery. And as I drove slowly along Germantown Avenue, trailing the ubiquitous number 23, I noticed the changes. New shops, apartments, offices, but also the pressing signs of the urban dishevelment that makes the avenue before Germantown gives way to Chestnut Hill. Strangely, what stirred me most along that drive were the names of the streets that rolled by one. Names I had forgotten, each with the power to awaken memories of earlier days. Tulpehocken, Duval, Sharpnack, Horter, Crittenden, Upsall, Maplewood, Allen's Lane. These were the streets that you lived on, the streets from which our student body hailed, some with their roots in colonial Philadelphia, the old neighborhood, the names like poetry, evoking memories of a happy and innocent time when American high schools like Germantown were still mainly unaffected by the storms that the decade ahead would bring. I am still a teacher. I left Germantown High School in 1966 for Penn State Abington, where I spent the majority of my career. In retirement, I found myself bored, so I began yet another career in adult education, or as it is currently termed, lifelong learning. For the past 10 years, I have devised and taught courses for mainline school night, and especially for Golden Circle Gems of the main line. My students are mainly retired professionals who admirably still think that the pursuit of knowledge and the growth of understanding is important. It is a career trajectory which has led me from high school, where I learned to teach, courtesy of many of you seated here, to college, to adult education. Your class vice president, Jeff Smith, was there at the start and now at the end. My student at Germantown and now at Golden Slipper. Last year, at the end of my lecture, I asked him to help me gather up my notes and books. And I said to him, Jeff, did you ever envision half a century ago at Germantown High that one day you in your 70s would still be sitting in my class, listening to my lecture, taking notes, or in your case, operating a camera, and carrying my books to my car on the parking lot? You in your 70s, for me in my 80s. His reply, no, I never did. Life truly is a miracle, full of surprises, happy ones, I may add.
Thank you, Claire. That was so touching. It really was. It brought back so many memories. Now, Mr. Jacobs, my math teacher.
And I just, before he does his speech, to say that we know that she was the English teacher, and a beautiful, beautiful speech. Now you're going to hear from a math teacher who has a lovely speech too, but it's a little different.
I don't know how to talk in math. Is there a language that I can use? First of all, thank you so much for inviting us again to this meeting. I taught for 56 years before retiring in 2009, but among those 56 years, your class still sticks in my memory. We had some wonderful times together. As you can see, I feel very much a part of your class. The class of 64, I was at your graduation, at your 50th reunion. I have the book. And now here at the 55th. The fact that you have 2 yearbooks makes you very special. Speaking of yearbooks, they are not well known for jokes. Do you remember that you, in your yearbook, had a joke? Do you remember? I'll help you remember. In fact, I was part of the joke. It seems that the sports section of your yearbook was complete, but there was still a space left on the last page.
Girls golf team.
Your creative editor
The guys golf.
invented
We didn't get a
the
picture.
Germantown girls golf team.
Yeah.
Golf at Germantown,
Yes.
which unfortunately needed a coach. I was invited to be this coach.
Wait, ask how many of those team
That's,
members are still here.
that's next. This is what was in the yearbook, the picture of that wonderful golf team and me. How many here were in this picture? 1, 2, 3. I have 3. No more.
They had a perfect record.
How many of these 3 have played golf?
None.
Not a one. Talk about a joke in a yearbook. Whoa. I love telling my friends about it and showing them the picture. I, too, do not play golf. I'm still honored to have been part of your joke. In fact, I still have the photo. Speaking of golf, I have a short story I'd like to read before I sit down about 2 of my friends, and this has a little to do with golf and a little to do with age. Here we go. I have to read it because I couldn't memorize it. This is called What Happens to Men Over a Period of 50 Years. Aging, of course. 2 guys grow up together, but after college, one moves to Maryland and the other to Texas. They agreed to meet every 10 years in Florida to play golf and catch up with each other. Kind of a nice idea. So it started at age 32. They meet, finish their round of golf, and head for lunch. Where are we going to go? Hooters. Why Hooters? Well, they have those servers with the big boobs, the tight shorts, and the gorgeous legs. You're on. 10 years later, they are now 42. They meet, play golf again. Where are we going to go for lunch? Hooters. Again? Why? Well, they have cold beer, big screen TVs, and side action on the games. Okay, we'll go. 10 years later, they are now 52. They meet and play another round of golf. So where are we going to go for lunch? Hooters. Why? Well, the food's pretty good and there's plenty of parking. Okay, we'll go. Things are changing, aren't they? Here we are now at age 62. After their round of golf, one says, where are we going to go? He says, Hooters. Why? Well, wings are half price, and the food isn't too spicy. Good choice. Now we're at 72. Does that sound familiar? We have a lot of 72s and 3s right in this room. Okay. Once again, after a round of golf, one says, oh, where are we going for lunch? Hooters. Why? Well, they have handicapped parking spaces right by the door, and they have senior discounts. Great choice. 10 more years pass. They are now 82 years old. They meet and play 9 holes of golf. Where should we go for lunch? Hooters. Why? Because we've never been there before.